Dr. Richa Mittal, Internal Medicine and Obesity Medicine Doctor.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sonal Haerter. I'm a primary care doctor and in the process of getting certified for culinary medicine.
Today, we are excited to show you how to take two traditional dishes, Upma and Halva, that are traditionally eaten in the South Asian culture, but often are overeaten or lead to you eating too many carbohydrates and not getting enough of what you need. So today we're going to show you how to make modifications using a star ingredient that will help you to add more fiber and protein to your diet, as well as heart-healthy fats. When we eat foods that have more fiber and protein, we actually can improve our risk for diabetes and heart disease down the line. So we're really excited to show you a sweet and savory option on how to prepare a star ingredient that Sonal's going to tell you more about.
Hi, so our star ingredient today is quinoa. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. It's not very commonly used in South Asian cooking, but today Richa and I are going to show you two different versions, sweet and savory. And that is what is great about quinoa, is it goes with so many different flavors. But what is awesome about quinoa is it is a whole protein. It has all 9 essential amino acids. And it's essential because these amino acids are not made by our body. So we have to find a way to get it through our diet. Now, typically, animal protein has these amino acids. As a vegetarian, I'm always looking for options to get my protein. And quinoa is a great resource for that. Quinoa also goes along with, like I mentioned, sweet and savory spices and flavors, which is awesome. And it has about 5 grams of fiber and about 7 to 8 grams of protein in 1 cooked cup of quinoa, which is what is great. So, Richa, you go first.
All right, well, let's get started. I'm really excited to show you guys this. Upma is a favorite in our home, and when we use the traditional semolina to cook it, that's basically the wheat devoid of the fiber. So you know that I'm not going to be very happy with that. And so quinoa is a great option to use in place of semolina. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera down here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I have my pan here heating on just low medium heat. And I did partially cook everything here for the sake of time, so you guys aren't watching me forever saute onions. So whenever you're cooking with stainless steel, just FYI, always heat your pan first before you add oil. In my cooking, I tend to use either extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. These oils are less processed and can provide more healthy nutrition than the highly processed vegetable oil options. So I'm going to put about 1.5 tablespoons in here. And I promise I did measure everything else, but I didn't measure out my oil. But it's about 1.5 tablespoons. And like I said, the pan was warming on low medium heat. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds. All right, so we'll let that kind of warm up here. I'm going to turn it up to medium. I also have 1 teaspoon of chana dal, so that's a type of lentil, and we're going to just add that in there. I did pre-roast these. These do take a few minutes to cook up. So, and I wanted to mention to you, you know, sometimes serving size can be really confusing. So 1/2 cup of quinoa is the serving size for the nutrition parameters that Sonal just mentioned to you. And when I cook quinoa, I always keep in mind that it's going to become like double. So 1 cup of quinoa is going to be, it's actually triple. It's going to give you 3 cups of cooked quinoa, which is great because what I do is cook it ahead of time and then have some allotted for maybe something like upma. Maybe you could make a sweet dish like what Sonal's going to show you. You could keep it on hand to prepare like a bowl or use it in place of rice. So today I've prepared 1/2 cup. Which is right here, and it makes 1.5 cups. So we're going to use that. And I want to mention to you really quick while this is heating up is when you get quinoa and you're going to cook with it, you want to get one that's either already rinsed or you want to actually take a small strainer and use that to, I'm going to talk like this. Okay. And then you use that to actually rinse the quinoa first. And the reason why is quinoa naturally has a bitter substance called saponins on the outside, and the food will come out bitter if you don't rinse it off. But if you buy the rinsed kind, then rinsing is optional, but sometimes I just do it anyways. But here we are. So our mustard seeds and chana dal is kind of sizzling here. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some more things. So I have a tablespoon of minced ginger. That's about half a piece of ginger. So I'm going to add that. And in this dish, if you guys are not familiar, which probably most of you are, there's actually not a lot of spices. We're just using like real herbs and flavors to get that flavor, and it already smells so good. Optional to use serrano peppers. I do usually, but since my kids are going to be eating this later, I'm going to skip that for today. But this is the step that you can add that. You also can add now half a cup of onions. So I chopped them finely. These are, of course, already kind of pre-sauteed, but you're going to be adding those in. And then you would basically saute them until they got to this consistency, which they're translucent and just a little bit brown. All right. And then we're going to add curry leaves. So when you are at the store, at the Indian store, you can get them. I actually have a plant and it grows really easily. So I would urge you to try, and you can just have these little curry leaves. I have about 10 curry leaves here, and I'm going to add those in. So that's what actually gives this dish a lot of the flavor. I'm going to turn my heat down here because my ginger is starting to stick to the pan here. And a few years ago switched over to stainless steel from nonstick because of the chemicals that are associated with the nonstick. That's a different topic, but you know, I'm all about full body health, and so I thought I would mention that. All right. So typically you would cover this now until your onions were cooked, but since my onions are already cooked, I'm going to go ahead and add my veggies. So I'm a big proponent of amplifying your food. And what that means is any opportunity you get, amplify it with protein, with fiber, and with veggies. So here's 1 cup of veggies, and these were actually frozen julienne carrots and peas. Another addition you could consider is actually to put shelled edamame. I do that often with my cauliflower rice, and you can do that with upma, and that adds another layer of protein for you with the edamame, which are soybeans. So as you can see here, these were already pre-sauteed as well. However, if you were doing it at home, then this is the step where you're going to probably cover it and keep stirring it periodically until it's where you want it to be. So you know your veggies are cooked when they start to become a little bit soft. I prefer that my veggies are not overcooked. And I meant to add the cashews before I added my veggies. I knew I was going to do that. So here are my cashews. I did saute them a little bit beforehand. Another option that we enjoy instead of cashews is actually to put raw peanuts, and you can just stir fry those as well. Again, the nuts are going to add more protein, more fiber, more healthy fats. And peanuts are also a really great option, but today I was in the mood for cashews, so that's what we're going to do here. So with this now, I'm going to let this cook just a little bit. And you know, when it comes to heart health, a lot of times people think, oh, I just need to avoid fat. But actually, you know, and I'm just talking about this while this is cooking, is, you know, there's different kinds of fat. And so saturated fats are definitely something that we want to limit. Those are fats that we get from animal products. So, you know, things obviously like meat, like butter, ghee, I know is very popular amongst our South Asian families. And a little bit is fine, but you don't want to be overdoing that. You want to get the bulk of your fats in a heart-healthy Mediterranean type of diet from foods that are what are called unsaturated fats, which are basically fats that are coming from plants. So things like nuts, avocados, seeds, olive oil, avocado oil, those are all great options for heart-healthy fat. Because in the end, we're trying to lower levels of inflammation. And that's something that for anybody who follows me on Instagram and Facebook and on my blog, I'm always talking about inflammation. And why? It's because our diets, when they're full of saturated fats, when they're full of really highly processed oils, and they're full of a lot of high carb foods that don't give us the fiber that we need. We actually accumulate body fat and visceral fat, which is fat around our organs, and that leads to inflammation, which is the common denominator in things like diabetes and heart health. So I'm going to pop back over here now. All right. So we have here, I'm going to give you a little close-up shot there. So we have our veggies, we have our onion, ginger, mustard seeds, and cashews in there. So I am now going to add my quinoa. So I had actually already, like I mentioned to you, cooked half a cup of dry quinoa turned into 1.5 cups of cooked quinoa. So this would probably be enough for 2 people. Obviously, you can double or triple this. One alternative, if you want, say you didn't plan ahead, is you could add the quinoa now that was rinsed, and then add your water just like you would have here with the same proportions. So you basically put double the water. So you could put half a cup of quinoa here and then add 1 cup of water, and then basically add salt and just stir it up and cover it. And you could cook it that way. Quinoa takes about 15 minutes to cook. But, you know, like I said, in the interest of time, I have already prepared it, but also because I try to keep these basics on hand so that I can, you know, what I call to my kids, finagle a meal really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and add the quinoa. I did add some salt to the quinoa and simply cooked it in water earlier. So I'm going to just stir that up and basically let that spice blend with all the veggies mix in there. And this is almost done. So as you can see, you know, it doesn't really take that long, and it's just like a much more filling version. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I've typically eaten quinoa, upma, I'm hungry like in an hour or 2. So if you can eat foods that, again, are the heart healthier version, which again is fiber, protein, you're gonna feel fuller for longer. And, you know, one piece of advice that I always give to my patients and to anyone who's curious is, like, when you eat, make it count. And that way you are not just kind of snacking throughout the day and feeling hungry, because nobody wants to be hungry. That doesn't feel good. All right, so this is basically done. And I'm just gonna show you how I like to present it. And if you don't like cilantro, then you don't need to use it. But this would basically be kind of 1 serving here. I'm just divvying it up into half. And I have here cilantro cut up, so I'm just gonna add some of that. And then I have some lime here that I'm gonna squirt on top. And you might need to add a little bit of salt in that process while you were cooking. I think, you know, I did add a little bit while I was preparing the quinoa, but this is basically your finished product here. So I hope that gives you some ideas on how to take a traditional dish, because, you know, I'm a big proponent of not losing flavor. I think that when we enjoy our culture and our food and our heritage, we don't want to lose flavor. No one wants to eat bland food. But I think with the rates of heart disease and diabetes and metabolic problems as high as they are in our South Asian community, we really need to try to find ways to enjoy our flavors, but still stay healthy and heart healthy. So I am now going to turn it over to Sonal.
All right, guys. So Richa, that was so yummy. I'm so hungry looking at your upma. But you know how much I love my sugar and how much I love my sweets, and I am all for Indian desserts. And when I started on this healthy eating journey about 4 years ago, I had to find a way to eat my Indian desserts, but of course not indulge in sugar or jaggery or coconut sugar, any type of sugar, as much as I was up until that point. So I'm going to show you how to make a traditional halwa, suji ka halwa, but with quinoa. So our star ingredient, quinoa. And what I've done here, I'm going to move my camera down here to show you exactly what I'm doing. And right here, so I am roasting my quinoa and actually a little bit of ghee. So like Richa mentioned, be very careful in how much ghee you use, because it does have saturated fat, which is not the healthy type of fat. But when you're making halwa, 1 teaspoon of ghee is not a bad idea. So I can smell the ghee as I'm roasting it. I have my favorite spice, cardamom. I love cardamom. I literally could put cardamom in any foods or dishes. So I'm going to just sprinkle that right here. And I also have a little bit of saffron. And saffron gives this dish this beautiful orange color without adding any additional color with chemicals. So be generous, and that's what goes. And then I have a cup of coconut milk. Now you can really use any type of milk. I prefer coconut milk or cashew milk just because it has a lot of creaminess. It has some protein and fiber, especially if you use a nut milk. You get a lot of protein from that. So this is about half a cup of dry quinoa, rinsed and washed like Richa mentioned. And then I'm going to pour about 1 cup of coconut milk, okay? So the key thing here is you have to let this come to a boil. Now, I also love to add cinnamon in my sweet dishes. Cinnamon also kind of gives that extra flavor, makes you feel like you're eating a real dessert. And for sugar, I will be using something called monk fruit. I'm sure some of you have heard about monk fruit, and what is so nice about monk fruit is, unlike your Splenda and some other chemical sweeteners, this is actually obtained from a fruit called monk fruit. And you might wonder, how is this different from a regular cane sugar, right? And cane sugar is obtained from sucrose, so from sugar cane. But this particular type of sugar comes from monk fruit's antioxidant called magroside. So unlike sucrose, it's obtained from antioxidants and really does not affect your body's blood sugar. So it does not affect the glycemic index. Glycemic index is a value given to foods that, or value given to your body's blood sugar, the way it reacts to foods that you eat. So it does not impact your glycemic index. So great for diabetics, great for pre-diabetics. So I'm going to put almost half a cup of that. So half a cup of dry quinoa, which was rinsed and washed, half a cup of monk fruit, and about a cup and maybe a tad bit more of the liquid, okay? So I'm making sure my camera is not shaking. All right, so as you can see, this is bubbling away, and this is the right time to actually lower the heat. You can see the beautiful color right here. I'm going to lower the heat and cover it and let it kind of sit on low flame for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now, in interest of time, I have quinoa that I've already cooked, and this is how it looks, okay? So this is literally like halwa, but now we will jazz it up a little bit more with some roasted nuts. And right here. So I have some roasted cashews and some raisins just from extra jazz. Add that to your, I hope you can see this. And then voila, here you go. This is your halwa, but instead of semolina, we have quinoa. Instead of sugar, you have monk fruit, and you have about 1 teaspoon of ghee and some raisins and some cashews. So you now have taken a dish, traditional dish, semolina that's stripped off all the fiber, like Richa mentioned. You have something that has amino acids, fiber packed, protein packed, as well as a lot of, and like Richa mentioned, maintaining the flavors is key here, because if it's not flavorful, no matter how healthy it is, I don't think I want to eat that. So this is going to be your new form of halwa. For more recipes, and guys, I love sweets, so I am constantly in the process of creating puddings or cakes and sweets. I sometimes make the same dish with banana, and so visit my Instagram account. It's up under Dr. Sonal's Heart and Soul. I put out a lot of recipes, not just sweet, but savory too, if you want any additional ideas.
Awesome. I wish I could eat that right now. It looks so good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and found some information that you will find valuable in your daily lives. I am also on Instagram and Facebook at Richa Mittal MD, and I love to share food as medicine, heart healthy recipes, as well as information about metabolic health and weight wellness. I also have a website. It's radianthealthdallas.com, and I have a newsletter for wellness that goes out once a month. So if you do sign up for that, if you subscribe, you get a free download for a Mediterranean diet grocery guide. So go check it out. And thank you so much again for joining us, and I wish you health.